Welcome back, friends, to another The City of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Lids87 here, and today I am bringing you guys another Are They Worth It video. A series where I go over an upcoming banner to see if said units on that banner are worth your precious tickets and or gems. Before I get into it though, friends, please remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, shoutouts to Database, Materibot, and the City of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia Compendium, as that is where I pull my stats and information from in regards to any changes in the game. So thank you to these resources, and I will paste said links in the description so you guys can use them for yourselves. So on November 2nd, UTC time, we will be getting Act 2 Finale Part 2 Warriors of Light. So Warrior Light will be returning. He will be getting his limited time costume bundle. Warrior of Light, Laguna, and Thancred will be getting reworks and character boards to Laguna, Thancred, Agrias, and Sync. Now, in this one, there will be two different banners, and the first multi-draw for each banner will be for free. It does state it right here, right dead center on this slide. All right, friends, so on this one, both banners will feature Warrior of Light's new weapons, LD and Burst. So depending on what EX you want or need, that is the banner that you will go on. All right, I'm not going to lie. I was not going to cover these two just because I really don't justify going ham for these guys. But my Twitch chat said to just quickly go over them, so that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so Thancred and Laguna will be getting reworks, EX pluses, no LDs. So long story short, for Thancred, recap, he is a poison melee attacker. His damage heavily relies on the target being poisoned. So if they resist poison, or if they are immune to debuffs, Thancred, you cannot use him on that stage. His damage will fall off drastically. Alright, so he was reworked, so more brave hits, higher potency, so he's going to hit harder, and he now has access to an EX plus weapon, just letting him dish out more damage. Now, just a quick note, he does have a special effect called Ninki. Now, he does get this special effect with his just having his EX weapon. Now, with this, when this special effect is at equal to or more than 3 stacks, he gets an upgraded brave attack, and his EX weapon upgrades also, but upon using these, they will consume 3 stacks. Now, with his upgraded Brave Attack plus Ninki, he will gain access to a free turn with no action delay and a free ability use on the following turn, just extending Thancred's longevity in fights. Also, with his Bavakakra plus, his EX plus, alright, his upgraded EX ability, it will just hit a lot harder, consuming 3 stacks of Ninki. So, poison, heavy attacker, that's pretty much the gist of Thancred. Now that he does have an EX plus, if you do happen to max out his EX weapon, he has an E-type bonus sphere, so after hitting a target's weakness, which you can do, he's going to be hitting for that poison weakness for 6 turns, reduces all enemies' brave at the start of their turns by 30% of their int brave, so pretty much a poison-like effect. Now Laguna, I'm not going to lie, out of the 2 non-LD reworked units, Laguna seems actually pretty interesting to me. So Laguna is a ranged attacking debuffer. He does have some brave healing built into his kit, and his rework is going to give him more uses with improved damage to his extensions. His EX plus frame his own debuffs. That is pretty neat because with his kit, he just can't inflict debuffs that are not inframed, but with his EX, they are now inframed. And I gotta be honest, the potencies are not bad at all. So with his defense, he can inflict a negative 60% on said target, framed for 6 turns. With his attack, 50% attack down, framed, and 50% speed down, framed. Also, all of these are for 6 turns. Now, if you use his EX ability, they're about to run out. Just use his abilities again, and they will refresh with the frame still on them. So that's 3 debuffs on the enemy that enemies can't be able to buff themselves, right? Or you can inflict 3 other types of debuffs on top of this enemy. And especially if they're framed, the enemy will not be able to buff themselves. So the defense down is pretty nice, and the attack down is pretty nice because it's going to let your party members hit harder, especially during the Lufeni era, right? Because we're going to be seeing 70% brave damage reduction, and if they throw other forms of defenses on top of that, you don't want that to happen. Laguna will help negate whatever defense they kind of throw on top of them. So you just have to worry about the brave damage reduction. And of course, the attack down is always nice, just to help keep your party members alive in the form that the boss won't hit as hard. Now, this all comes into play with Laguna's buffs. So he does have party-wide max brave plus 60% generic buff, physical attack up to himself plus 30% to range and melee. So it's going to let him hit harder. But this is where it all comes together. His EX buff, Manly Charm, which grants him an additional plus 10% to max but plus 20% brave damage per debuff on the target. This will just let him hit harder depending on how many debuffs are on said target, plus 20% per debuff. So he can inflict 3 debuffs himself. If you find someone else to inflict those other 3 debuffs, it's just going to let Laguna hit a little bit more harder. Now, if you do happen to max out his EX weapon, he does have an E-type bonus sphere when dealing a critical hit with an AoE brave attack, which he can do. He will inflict 30% max brave down to all targets for 3 turns. Now, time to talk about the main unit on this banner, the unit that will be getting an LD and burst weapon, Warrior of Light. Now, those not familiar with Warrior of Light is a ranged tank type character with support and healing built into his kit. He's getting a rework that's just gonna improve his extensions, and he is able to buff up your character stats while protecting them from brave damage, and he is able to target lock the enemies to further keep the pressure off of your allies. Now, his main primary buff is a shield, which he can give to the entire party with his first ability or to himself with his second ability. Now, what this does is will shield Brave for 230% of casters Imp Brave, so you want to stack Imp Brave on Warrior of Light if you can. Now, at Crystal level 10, this will add Brave Resist Shield by 20% of Imp Brave, and at Crystal level 25, plus 30% party defense. Warrior of Light does grant himself an Elude buff for 3 turns, which has a plus 75% debuff evade. It would have been better if it was at 100%, so there is a 25% chance that Warrior of Light can get debuffed. Keep that in mind. And Warrior of Light will grant himself access to a self buff that affects the entire party, and this is called Will of Light. Now, what this is going to do to the party is this will grant him plus 40% to attack, max brave, and also a brave regen of 60% of Int Brave. Character boards will increase party max brave and attack by 5%, and of course his debuff is his lock. EX Plus recommendation, EX Plus 3 out of 3, right? You want to win Lufenia content, okay? This is going to be more true during the Lufenia era. Do not skimp out. You want as much stats on said character as possible, just so they could dish out said damage and not hit like a wet noodle. And if you do happen to max out Warrior of Light's EX weapon, you will gain access to a bonus sphere, a B-type bonus sphere, while HP is max, reduces brave damage taken by 10%, which can help him out in terms of his shield. He will be taking less damage, aka his shield, his own personal shield, not party members. Again, this only affects the wielder. This will reduce brave damage taken by 10%, just letting his own shield last that much longer, but it comes into play because he can target lock the enemies. Okay, friends, time to take a look at Warrior of Light's LD, Bitter End. Now, this is going to drastically improve your party's survivability compared to before. Now, Bitter End, damage plus party brave healing, followed by buffs, shields, and taunts. Now, this grants Warrior of Light access to a special effect for 10 turns called Guardian Shield that affects the party. Now, what this is going to do for the party, plus 20% to Imp Brave, max brave and attack, plus 60% to defense, and now HP damage resist based on shield value. This can drastically reduce the amount of HP damage that the enemies dish out towards your party members because of Guardian Shield. Keep up your shields. Make sure to keep up your shields. With he has a good amount of ability uses to refresh the shields, the shield values on your party members, so they will completely negate a lot of attack. Because Warrior of Light, he only has HP healing in his EX ability, but it's not a lot. It's the only source of HP healing. He has a lot of Brave Battery, but very little HP healing. This is going to improve that, because if the enemy's HP damage is being resisted, you really don't have to heal often, okay? So you'll be able to space it out a little bit more better, reduce that HP damage received, and even if a little bit of HP damage goes through, heal up with his EX ability, and your party members will be just fine. So Brave negation in terms of the shields, and now HP damage resist based on the shield values of said party members. And upon limit breaking his LD all the way, he's going to get an additional plus 30% to Imp Brave, further helping or boosting his shields, and plus 60% to attack, which is going to help out his damage towards the bosses. So beautiful LD for a tank that affects the entire party. Now let's talk about his Burst Ultimate Shield. Burst effect, 4 turns party-wide. At the start of each party member's turn, grants Brave based on shield value and plus 50% max Brave overflow and gained overflow. So I guess this is nice in terms of massive amounts of brave healing to your party members at the start of each turn, so you could just start dumping out all that brave, especially if your damage starts really getting resisted. This is a nice way to overcome that, as long as you could keep the enemy's brave in check. Near the tail end of a fight, this is a great way to help you finish off that boss because of the massive brave healing. There are better burst effects in my own personal opinion that just lets you dish out damage, but this is nice if you do happen to pick up War of Light's burst. Again, the brave healing will be a lot based on the shield values, and the overflow is very nice too. Now, some cons about War of Light is, first and foremost, he is not an attacker. There will be other units, an upcoming tank actually, that will dish out more damage than War of Light, but he can make up for that in the form of brave healing towards the party. You will be spamming his abilities for the brave healing. He does have a good amount of uses for them, but just keep that in mind, is that he is not an attacker, and shield values heavily rely on his int brave. Okay, so if you have very crappy int brave values, very crappy int brave passives on Warrior of Light, the bosses will shred through his shields. Eventually, the bosses, just over the course of time, are going to shred through his shields, but near the beginning, not having some good int brave on Warrior of Light, or even some form of brave damage reduction, they're going to shred through his shields. Okay. Now, with the C50 passive arts, he must be full on HP when the last wave starts. Now, what his C50 does, this will increase his stats by 10%, so int brave, max brave, attack, and defense. This can be further boosted with class change boost 2 stars, which is plus 5% int brave, max brave, attack, and defense, up to 15%. But as we do go on to the Lufenia era, you're going to start seeing less waves, so sometimes you'll just go straight to the boss fight. So if there are multiple waves on a Lufenia stage, this might get a little iffy, so just keep that in mind. But again, we're going to be saying maybe 2, okay, at most 2 waves in the Lufenia era. So this should be okay, all right, depending on how much damage you take. All right, friends, now time to ask ourselves, are these units worth it? Are they worth your precious tickets and or gems? All right, so I will say this right now. Laguna and Thancred, they're fun to use, okay? And just going forward into the Lufenia era, as long as you could put the proper team compositions, you can use them on content. I can't really justify seeing them used long term. Okay, friends, that's just me personally. Okay, if you have something different to say about that, just let me know in a kind demeanor down below in the comments. But I really can't justify you guys going ham for them. I maxed out Thancred on the JP side. I used him, and yeah, I'm like, yeah, no, straight to the bench. They are fun to use. I could see Laguna in terms of his own debuffs. I can see him lasting a little bit longer than Thancred himself, but just keep that in mind going forward. They are fun to use. I will definitely give them that. With the proper team compositions, you could make them work, but long term, no, I just don't. I don't see it there without the proper team compositions. Warrior of Light, though, now I mean, getting a rework, just better uses of his extensions. His LD fixes a lot of the issues he has had before, because the enemies are able to shred through his shields, and if you're not on top of it, if you don't have good stats for his imp brave, they're going to shred through your shields. Your party members are going to die. You're just going to be spamming his abilities with no return. That is going to be true going forward, of course, in the Lufenia era. Just over time, bosses again will shred through his shields, but this should help keep your party members alive. Now, with his LD, stacking that HP damage reduction on top of his brave shields is going to help keep your party members alive as the fight goes on, especially in the Lufenia era. And his burst effect, just very nice, huge amounts of brave healing to your party members at the start of their turn. So it's just going to let them just dump out all that brave, dealing some nice damage. And all of this is based on the shield value, so which you can trigger, you can refresh during the burst mode. And once the finished burst is done, your party members will have some nice brave healing for 4 turns. Now, I would ask yourselves, do you need a tank? All right, so because we have someone that does something similar in regards to shielding your party members, and that is 9. 9 shield values are based off of how much HP damage he dumps out on said enemies. And going forward, we're going to be introduced to 7-star armors, which can help the overflow or exceed the cap. And there are some there are some party members that will receive a 7-star armor that lets your party members exceed the cap. There are going to be some units that only let themselves exceed the cap, but there's some others, like for example Kurosame off the top of my head, that will let your party members exceed that cap. So if you pair Kurosame with 9 and really exceed the cap for the HP damage, you're going to get a nice shield value on your party members to help keep them alive. 9 also has on-demand HP healing on his second ability. It's going to heal him at first, but then any overflow healing will be spread out to your party members. And 9 does have, he also has HP healing in his EX ability. And with his LD, 9 can negate all HP damage, but upon the first hit, this will remove that HP damage and further improve the stats of your party members. And also in the near future, we will be getting Gladio, who is also another attacking like tank. Gladio does have a cover like effect like Galuf with his first ability. He will take the single target damage in place of your party members. But Gladio also has AoE party-wide brave damage reduction, 60% brave damage reduction, and if I remember correctly, 20% HP damage reduction to your party members. So instead of giving your party members a shield, he will cover for them and also reduce the amount of damage they take. All right, friends, so ask yourselves, do you guys need a tank, or do you have any of those 2 units, or if you're going to be going for them? Now, in terms of just having variety of party compositions, Warrior of Light is a good option as a tank. Brave healing, HP damage reduction with healing in his ZX ability. He's gonna help the survivability of your units. But if you are hurting on resources, and if you definitely have some of those other units, then I might actually consider skipping out on Warrior of Light. If you don't have any of those other 2 units, I would highly recommend you guys pick yourselves Warrior of Light because of his shields and his HP damage reduction. Having your attacker just go ham, not having to worry about their own brave, that is a huge plus to having Warrior of Light on the party. Okay, friends, so if you're asking yourselves, should you go for Warrior of Light, ask yourselves, do you have any other tanks? Because if you do not have any other tanks, I highly recommend you pick one up, and Warrior of Light will fill that spot beautifully. Now, like I mentioned earlier, on these 2 banners, there will be 1 free multi-draw per banner, so that is 2 free multi-draws in total. So it is possible you could pick up Warrior of Light's LD and or Burst in the process. Now, when it comes to your own proper resources, I would say tickets, again, maybe it depends on if you need a tank. If you need a tank, yes, throw in tickets on this banner for his LD. When it comes to gems, this isn't really the banner to go in on for Warrior of Light's Burst, not even close. There's another banner which I'll talk about in a moment that you guys should chase after Warrior of Light's Burst, again, if you're going to go for Warrior of Light's Burst. But right now, I would say his Burst at this moment, I wouldn't go for it. I would not pity it unless you love Final Fantasy 1 or if you just like Warrior of Light as a character overall just for the better stats. There are other bursts in the near future that I would rather you guys go for, but if you want to chase his burst, I will recommend not to go for it here and to go for it on another banner. All right, friends, so if you need a tank, if you don't have 9 or Gladio, and if you need a tank, pick up Warrior of Light's LD here. He will keep you alive in a lot of the Lufenia runs as long as you can make up the Lufenia special counter, as long as you can meet the requirements with your other 2 party members. If you're gonna throw tickets on these banners, just go for the Laguna and Thancred banners, just because they're more recently updated compared to Agrias and Sync. So if you grab their gear, they'll help you out with content, especially if it's like Abyss, right? If it's Abyss content and you need a ranged attacker or some kind of, I don't know, poison attacker, you have your team variety. All right, friends. Now, if you are going to be chasing Warrior of Light's burst weapon, let me tell you which is the best burst banner to chase him on. Now, his burst weapon will be featured on 4 different banners. Now, the current one that he will be featured on, right, with his initial LD and burst weapons on there, and the other 2 banners are going to be in 8's Lost Chapter, where 8 will get an LD weapon. He will be able to 8 will be able to taunt all the enemies with his LD, and he will be able to initiate another counter on top of his EX counter. And the second banner will be Kurosame's event banner. And in my own personal opinion, the Kurosame banner is the banner to chase Warrior of Light's burst weapon on. Because Kurosame, he is actually a recommended unit to pick up. He's a good unit in the form of what he can do for the party and towards the enemies. All right, friends. So I'll get more into detail when I cover Kurosame, but pretty much recap. Kurosame has party-wide max brave and attack buff to their stats. He has a debuff called Ice Prison. Now, Ice Prison, it is a stackable debuff that will increase your party members' HP damage. Once it's at max stacks, this will do 30% HP damage to said enemy, which is going to let your party members just hit harder when they dump out their brave, especially if they could exceed the cap. And Kurosame has a 7-star that lets your party members exceed the cap. And he, with this debuff, it will also imperil ice, which Kurosame does ice brave damage. Now with his LD, this will automatically inflict the 5 stacks of Ice Prison to all the enemies, and he gets a buff that will further increase your party members' attack and max brave overflow. All right, friends, so if you're going to be chasing for Warrior of Light's burst, I highly recommend you chase on the Kurosame banner. That is it for this video, friends. I want to thank you guys for watching my Are They Worth It covering Laguna, Thancred, and Warrior of Light. Be sure to let me know down below in the comments what you guys think overall about this banner. What do you guys think of Laguna? What do you guys think of Thancred? What do you guys think of Warrior of Light? And what do you guys think about the Lufene era that's about to happen on the global side of the game? Me personally, aside from the free multi-draws, I would love to pick up Warrior of Light's LD with tickets if I can. I am planning to use 200 tickets for Warrior of Light. I've always liked Warrior of Light in this game since back in the day. So I am hoping to get his LD with the free multi-draws or with tickets. Again, I'm going to throw 200 tickets. If I get his burst in the process, that'd be amazing. But am I going to chase his burst? I'm not sure yet, depending on how my resources are. Because if you guys seen my VV video, I had to pity VV's LD weapon. So that wasn't a part of the plan. Well, it was a surprise, right? It wasn't a plan for anybody. So it's all going to come down to tickets, but at the same time, I also want Kuja's LD because that's going to help with summon board farming, but that's for a different video. So again, friends, for me personally, I am going to use tickets on the chasing for Warrior of Light's LD. Most likely, probably on the Laguna Thancred banner because I don't have Laguna's EX weapon. I don't have Sync's EX weapon. But since they are a little bit more up to date, that will just allow me to use them in just different team compositions, especially for something like Abyss when there are requirements that they can fit into. All right, friends. So again, let me know down below in the comments all your wonderful plans. And until next time, friends, good luck and have a good one.